your name, young lady?
Young. Megan. Meg.A.
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 Alright. So,
sorry, just an ink fetish over here because this is beautiful. Oh my goodness.
So I see you have a lot of pens and a lot of ink.
Of course. Why would I not? Who wouldn't? How dare you not have none?
And what makes you have so many pens? Describe your love for pens that you have.
I love pens. I mean, I don't even know like why there's people out here who will buy pens and not care about them. Those people are cruel. They're cruel. Just like.
Okay. So
they're cruel.
When did this love fetish obsession comes with?
You said obsession.
Yeah. When did you develop this love for pens?
I wouldn't say it's an obsession. Because people kill over obsess. I just have a dire love for fountain pens. Mm-hmm. Or for pens in general. Ordered my first fountain pen back in 2020 during COVID. Because at that time I had looked up and I saw that I looked up what was the most popular fountain pens or whatever, and I was seeing that, or I saw that it was at that time in London. I was like, did a little research. We all know Pilot. We all know they're awesome. So I kind of wanted try something different. So I ordered my first lemon, and when I got it, I was amazed at the writing, the nib, how smooth it was. So that's what made me fall in love with fountain pens all over again. And I would have to say that was what started me back to it, but I've kind of gotten to the point where I love Quebeco too, which is another German pen. Love my German, my Deutsches.
So would you consider yourself as a writer?
Define writer.
A person who loves to write. A person that...
If that's what you're basing it off of, yeah.
Do you think that the acts of writing is dying nowadays?
It is. It really is. It started dying when they took cursive out of school. In my opinion.
So do you think it's important to keep it alive?
It very much is. And the sad thing is it don't seem like most of these schools are necessarily wanting to, because I would love to be able to go in and talk with kids and where they do creative writing and getting them to writing and journaling early on, because I feel like that was a big save with mental health with what I experienced growing up, and because that's really all I used to do. And I feel like had I not just started writing or doing something of that nature, my mental health probably would have suffered. Because there is some logic to why therapists, psychiatrists, why they always, when they're meeting people, they always say, do you journal? Why do you think that's always a mechanism that they give their clients? Is to journal, is to write. And we're not talking about putting it on a digital electronic. If that works for you, that's fine. But it's something about grabbing a pen and writing on paper that makes and when you go back and read it, it's like, wow, I felt that. It's like reliving what you felt in that moment.
So,
but people like electronics now.
So I'm guessing that you journal.
Always have. I mean, I've had breaks where I stopped writing for a while. But now journaling is something I've always done. Writing stories is something that I've done as well. Writing stories, that's a good way to process what you go through too. Very, it helps you develop imagination as well. And sometimes it helps you see a situation differently.
So from your point of view, I would guess that you say, or would you say that journaling is very important to your mental health?
It is. It is, right? And I'm not talking about the throwback. Oh, I'm talking about throwback, pen to paper. Not your average the other mess that they be doing. Like and I'm not knocking it. If it works for you, it works for you. Doing the whole writing through journaling or writing on your phone or whatever. If that works for you, that's cool, but to me it's not the same. It's not the same as you putting pen to paper. There are times where on paper I have wrote things that I wouldn't have said, wish I said, couldn't believe I felt. Sometimes if you tell somebody you feel that way, you crazy. Paper ain't never made me crazy. Paper always helped me to look and be like, yeah, you feeling real ugly right now. But it helped me to feel that ugly and heal that ugly. Not feel that ugly, hide that ugly, and continue being ugly. Yeah. So that's what writing has helped me do.
So how many pens have you touched in your life?
I just turned 38. And proudly, I have touched over 1 million pens. Now that's a proud moment. Over 1 million. Over 1 million pens. That's how long I've liked pens, and that's not including fountain pens for anybody that's probably wondering. Yeah, over 1 million.
For people that don't know, what is the main difference between regular ink pens and fountain pens?
Well, even with ink pens, you have different ones as well. You have different, you have rollerball, ink gel, gel pens. So, I mean, it's different for them too. But the difference between a fountain pen and a pen is the fact that you fountain in the ink. Kind of like I'm doing with this right here. I'm putting a cartridge on there. And then once it gets flowing again, haven't written with this one in some time. Once this one gets flowing again, the ink, once it goes down, it'll go through and I'll be able to write with it. Basically, with this is more longevity. They cost more because they're longevity. You're going to have them for forever. This isn't a pen like when it messes up or anything, you throw it away. No, you take it to somebody, you find out what's wrong with it, you get it fixed. Whereas if I run out of ink of that pen, I got to throw it away. So it's kind of like basically disposable. Like how most people treat other people disposable. It's kind of disposable. That's why one of my favorite types of pens to use outside of fountain pens is gel pens. Pilot G2s. That's a loyal pen. That pen is loyal. Very loyal.
So where did your love for pens actually come
My love for pens. Well, it came from a bald-headed man. It came from a little bald-headed man. My father. It came from him. When I was a little girl, on Saturdays, he would always be up before everybody. Everybody. So by the time everybody else is waking up, my dad he would have already been to the store. He would have already cut the yard. So at that time, he'd be sitting there kind of just in front of the TV, just watching TV, watching sports or Westerns. And he would, be sitting there writing out plans, planning what he had to do list, anything or whatever. So I remember he had a fountain pen, and I remember wanting to write with his pen. So he got me a notepad, and he gave me a piece of paper and let me write on it. And that was my first time ever touching a fountain pen, and I liked it. I liked how different it were. You had to hold it a certain way. You can't pick up a fountain pen and start writing with it like you can any other pen. You have to hold it at that angle. So that's when I initially fell in love with the fountain pen. And my first time touching one. And it was just different.
So what are some things you like to write or love to write?
What are some things that I love to write? I am more of I love that ink in that pen. I just had to make sure it was flowing through. Bless it. I'm more of a realist. And don't get me wrong, I'm idealistic, I like dreaming, I like imagination, I like all that, but I always return to reality. It's good to escape a little bit, but I always return back to that. So me personally, I love writing about exactly what I feel, no matter how ugly it may be. And from what I have learned, you can even make some of the most ugliest, and I mean ugliest feelings look pretty on paper. So it's just all in how you put it into words. So I like that. I like writing stories. I really haven't been writing a lot of stories, but I do like writing stories. That's actually how I process pain sometimes. That's how I used to process a lot of stuff growing up too. I'd write a story about it from a different perspective or from something else, like some other type of imagination or something.
So how many times can you count that writing have gotten through the darkness?
Every time. It's gotten me through every time. Legit. It has. It's not it's honestly been an every time thing that writing has gotten me through. It's not a time that writing has ever failed me. It's people that have failed me. It's not ever been it hasn't ever been a pen and paper that failed me. It's always been the person that picked it up that failed me. So there's always been like a saving grace. That's why when my dad died, I couldn't write for nothing.
What?
My dad, he was like he was like when he died, I didn't know how to process no type of emotion. I had stopped writing for the longest of time. And a lot of people don't really like fountain pens either. Some people don't like them because of the fact of how, messy they can be. Like, you're going to have ink everywhere. But these are probably the same people who are covering up a mess in their life.
So would you call yourself a penologist?
I definitely would. I definitely would. That's funny you say. Oh my god, this ink is so what? Oh my god, you cannot lie.
Wouldn't work. Move yours, I think.
Cursive ugly, but we gonna exclude that. That is pretty. Got that little glitter sheen to it. Oh, look at you. Bless it.
So with the fountain pens. So with fountain pens, you can put whatever type of color ink that you want in.
Yep, you can. Kind of like these, I'm inking them up with different ones. We gonna get to that new one in a hot second. He's screaming over there. I just don't know what to put in my black one. I don't know what color ink. I'm trying to think about what other colors I have. I got any purples and any exotics. I don't think I got a purple. I could ink that one with purple, but my last black one had purple in it, so I might do different. We got, of course, some Japanese ink. What better? In Germany, we got this Quebeco chapter 38 birthday. I'll be able to read this soon. Don't worry.
Bring it to the camera. Bring it a little closer. Alright.
And then this is the Yamaburu ink. Japanese ink, as you can see. But this is a birthday gift here. Dun, dun, dun. The Quebeco. Oh, my little tin. What? Okay, I'm struggling here with this. Okay. Pen don't seem to want to come out. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
There we go. Finally, we have a breakthrough. This is the Quebeco.
Put up against the camera. Alright, in the box. Here in the team.
Alright, ink all on my hands.
Right there.
This guy here is something serious. Look at that. OMG, OMG. The technology of this. Like, look at that. The technology. Like, amazing. Yep, all in Germany. Don't worry. I'll be able to read this one. No worries.
So would you say writing is your safe place?
It is. I haven't ever been judged from a pen and paper. It's the person that reads it that judges. That's what I've learned. O to the M to the G. This is going to be pretty. Okay, let's see here. Oh my god, that gold nib is just... OMG. Quebeco done came through with this one.
Very good.
Oh my god. This is why I love the German fountain pens. They nibs be so smooth. Oh my god. Quebeco. Like, oh my god. Like, would you like to try? Just
I'll try it out.
Yeah. That's maybe. Um, this is amazing. The Kaveco piston filler. Oh my lord. Like, you can't say that ain't a smooth writing pen.
Definitely.
Right. Kaveco. They did their thing with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Kaveco, yes. Like, look at it. It's just black and gold. Like, who can hate this? Oh my god, you're so cute. Look at you, little dude. Like, I just don't know. It's like, I know there's some other pen people out there who love pens as well. I know it's not just me. But how can you have a life where you just hate pens? How do you hate writing? Explain. Explanation needed. Like, how do you hate like not expressing yourself? You know?
How do you get lost in writing? How do you get lost in writing?
I feel a lot, so it's not hard to get lost. Most people, even if my hand is tired, I still would write.
Yeah.
I still would keep going and going. Because I feel so much. I feel a lot. I think a lot. So it has to go somewhere, because and a lot of times people aren't really going to listen to what you have to say. They don't listen to what you think. They don't listen to what you feel. So it's just easier to, you can't just keep all of it in. You have to let it out somewhere. So I'd rather let it, if you know it's not going to go anywhere with a person. You know, there are times where I've said things and regretted what I said, or maybe how I said it. But there's times where it has to go somewhere. It's going to either go out of bad behavior. It's going to come out somewhere. So it's like, you got to get it out. Or for me, I look at it like that. I have to get it out. Just staying inside of me it's not gonna manifest into it. And sometimes when you know something is not going anywhere with someone, or something is not going to be said properly or whatever, you got to put it somewhere. So I've always trusted writing. I've always trusted putting it somewhere on paper. Even if I got a journal about it. Heavy feelings, heavy emotions, write it out. Sometimes I went in having heavy feelings, and by the time I got done writing, I was like, you know what was I even pissed about? What was I even? Sometimes you writing out, okay, like, I remember processing a breakup in my past. I remember writing a story about it from maybe another perspective. And in the midst of me writing it from a different perspective, from maybe like a third party on the outside that was watching this relationship, I realized it was a toxic relationship. But when I was in it, I didn't think it was toxic. But because I actually wrote it as a story from like maybe like I can't really remember, but it was basically from something you wouldn't even think. Like, it might have even been from something as small as like a bug's view of watching this couple in a park, and something of that nature. That's how I would do. I would take something insignificant and give it some type of value, because there's a lot of times we look at things and be like, that's nothing, but everything is something. So I remember doing that, and that's when I realized, like, that relationship was toxic. Why was I trying to keep that? Sometimes you don't realize how toxic your behavior is, or how toxic someone else's were, or whatever the case might be. Sometimes you don't realize that until you read something and you go back to it maybe some days later. I don't ever recommend reading it right then. because you're still high in the emotion. Give yourself some days and then go back and read it. Then when you go back and read it, that's when it's gonna be like, I felt that. Then you're more level-headed. Now you're thinking more like, how can I resolve this? I can't keep doing this. I gotta change this. Whatever. At first I was so upset and heartbroken about that relationship. But when I reread it and I read the story, I was like, this person brought out a whole ugly side of me. I was toxic. So I feel like if people would start doing that now, maybe that would be helpful. But people don't like writing. People like the people like this more than anything. People like strolling. They like talking about what the next person's going through. They like talking bad about other people. They like 90% of the time, they like, this superstar did this, Beyonce did this. Beyonce is up in her $1 billion with her husband living her life. And you sitting here miserable looking at her life. And she's happy strutting across the stage. Millionaire. You see what I'm saying? So that's what more people like versus dealing with what is really. I mean, we all got dark sides. We all got something going on. But you're gonna keep making a circle if you don't change it. Like you're gonna like some people be wondering why they keep going through some of the same things they're going through, because you got a circle going. I don't want to keep living in a circle because that means I'm going to keep repeating the same stuff over and over. I'm going to keep being insane 1 minute, then the next minute I'm sane, but I'm going to go back to being insane because I'm keep doing the same stuff. Sometimes you have to literally break down and realize like, this ain't working for me. I got to make a 180. I got to make a change. And that's ultimately what happened with me. I had to get to my lowest and I had to break at my lowest to realize like, I don't like what I'm doing. These people around, I'm starting to see clearly the people around me, they not fully for me. They not fully this. They're not fully, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I had to go through that darkness and realize I don't want that to be a cycle. Like I gotta heal. And then when you start realizing most of your life that you start looking back and reflecting and you're like, you know what? When have I ever just 100% been able to be me around somebody? Because even in those past friendships or relationships or whatever, it was always the times when like I found myself letting me be who I were. When it was rejected, I'd pull it back. But that was, to be honest, in those relationships, that's why they would fail too. Is because when you keep pushing back me when I'm bringing to you who I really am, and you keep rejecting it, that's when you're going to keep getting a different side of me. And that different side isn't really who I am. And then a lot of times I end up angry because I done sat here, I done suppressed most of the time who I really were. You rejected it. It wasn't good enough. You liked it, the fun part, you know, a lot of people do. They like the funness of it. They don't like dealing with when a person goes through their ugly. So when I had to go through my ugly, I'm the one who would sit there with someone else when they're going through their ugly. Didn't nobody want to sit there with me when it was time for me to go through my ugly. May it been my fault or not. Real friends, real people gonna sit right there and be like, look, we all just gonna be sitting here ugly as hell together. Not, oh, you used to be like this, you used to be like that. I also was not who I was. Also, when I would pop up and, you know, put it out there like, I really do love this or I really do love that. Oh, okay, that's cool. I started realizing in my friendships, people didn't know who I really were. Because every time when I bring out who I am, it's like, oh, okay, it was brushed aside, but as long as we go and drink and we go on here, we talk about this person and that person and what they got going, blah, blah, blah. As long as we was doing that, it was cool. That ain't who I am. So.
Since when did you know? Since when did you know you were a writer?
I didn't really know I was a writer until later on in my life. I just knew that was my way I had to express myself. It's like I knew I knew that was what was needed for me to get out what I needed to get out, basically.
So how much do you love pens and stationery items?
Woo. Put it to you like this. Love them quite a lot. There's one. There's two. There's three. 4. So you can't have one without the other. That's the best way I can put it. You can't have one without the other. Like, I like to see you try, but I've always loved stationery. I love journals. I love pens, paper, pen to paper. I just love it. Like, you can't. Oh my God, air bubble. You can't. You just can't have one without the other. In all honesty. Still got air bubble. I knew I loved journals early on. I knew I loved paper. I love writing letters. That's why back in the day I used to love the whole fact of writing notes. Like when we was in high school, we passed notes to each other and all that good stuff. I liked it. Why? Because you had to write. I didn't mind that. Now, nope. Now you looked at it crazy just because you like writing. Or I know I've been looked at crazy that way. I can't remember the last time I've gotten. Well, I write you, but that's kind of typical for us. But I haven't really written letters like that to anybody in a long time because the people that I was around not really. Yeah. That wasn't something that they really paid attention to about me. That was something that was overlooked with me as well. Yeah. With the people I was surrounded by. Like, I loved writing. So when I bust out and was talking more about writing and was talking more about wanting to write, wanting to do things with my writing, it was kind of looked at like, what? Because you didn't pay attention all those times when I did say I really love writing. I guess it wasn't a register of how much I really loved it. Right. Because that was a part of me that was.
So how many pens do you currently own?
Fountain pens, I own 43 right now. With that new Quebeco. The May 43. That's fountain pens now. Can't tell you based off of my shelf over there. I can't tell you about the rest. There's probably over 1 million pens over there. Or roughly like 1,000 maybe. It might be about 1,000 over there. Yeah, might be 1,000. So yeah. How many journals I have, can't tell you. Just know it's a lot.
What inspirational message can you give to other writers?
Write and to just write and just be who you are in your writing. Don't let anybody tell you, like, anything different per se. And then another thing too, don't if you're still in a place where you're writing for school purposes and you can't really get as creative as you want, realize too early on that for them that's a grade. You don't get so like mind blown and stuck on you having to write a certain way. That was something that held me back with poetry for the longest time because I didn't like poetry. I liked it, poetry. I've always had a love for poetry, but it's a thing of I had, back in school, we were taught that poetry had to rhyme. They didn't really talk a lot about the fact that poetry really don't have to rhyme. Poetry really doesn't have to even, all it needs is what? Like metaphors, assemblies, or something like that. But they don't really elaborate on that because the thing they harp on is the Shakespeare sonnet and it has to rhyme A, B, Z. I've always been the writer with no structure. So when you are the one who writes from emotion. So when it comes to me having to water down and say my writing, say something a certain way, at that point, how can I even talk about how I even really feel? Because you're telling me that my feeling in such words is invalid. So what I would tell another writer is if you're wanting to be more free with your writing, explore writing what you feel. Explore writing what you feel. Separate your writing from your schoolwork. What you write outside of that, don't let it be boggled down with what they say you should write. Like how you should write, how you should put this into words, or how you should word something or say something. Don't even let that dictate you, because for the longest time I had a love-hate relationship with poetry just because of school. Because I hated the fact that I was like, I love poetry and I would love to be able to write it, but because of the fact that I'm not a person that rhymes like that. I'm not the cat in the hat. So I can't rhyme like that. You had a luxury. You can rhyme. You can. However, me, no. I feel like my writing is being taken away from me at that point, because I feel like I'm conforming to try to make it sound a certain way when the biggest thing to me is the message, the emotion, what is, getting you to feel what I'm saying. Sometimes when you go back and read some things that rhyme, it's kind of like, it starts to sound just like he said in the movie, Love Beats Rhymes. It sounds kind of cheesy sometimes. Like, we reading a poem, and I'm not saying that's for everybody. Some people got something that flows really well. But in all honesty, that took me away from poetry for the longest time. And when I started writing poetry in 2019, when I started going through, like, starting to sit down with my darkness and everything, that's when I started realizing I've been writing poetry ever since I was a child and didn't know it. All because someone told me it had to rhyme. It had to be like this, and this is poetry. So I took what I was writing out of it. Then, ever since then, I started seeing different ways of poetry. Like, there's prose poetry, there's narrative poetry. And me, I like to tell a story in my poetry. So I've always been the one writing narrative poetry and prose poetry and not know it. So that's what I would tell somebody, is to don't give up on your writing just because someone else doesn't know how in the hell they're going to take your writing. Yeah, that's what I would say. Because they ultimately don't know how they're going to take your writing, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Make a closing statement.
You said make a closing statement. The hell? What am I in? Am I in jail? What is your closing statement? What is your last meal? Huh? I mean, my closing statement, like, this is me. This is who I am. I love pens. I pray you love pens too. I pray you love them too. Like, I pray pens is your number 2 after Jesus Christ. Just saying. First comes God, then comes Jesus, then comes your pen.